Oh, you just can't make this up. And the first thing they do is run to CNN.
I mean, the fact that the president's come out and says he's gonna review every green card holder from 19 countries of concern, that he has stopped certain immigrants from countries already that again makes sweeping generalizations about countries that shouldn't have every individual assumed to be dangerous to admit to the United States. We need to make sure that we have tight and appropriate and proper vetting. If there were gaps that admitted this person, they would have failed over multiple levels of gaps, and this individual was trusted enough to participate in assisting our military during the war in Afghanistan. So I just think, the president looks everywhere except inward to blame his own policies. We need to make sure that we don't have our military deployed in our cities where handling law enforcement responsibilities, and we need to make sure that we address gun violence. We certainly need to make sure we always have the proper and appropriate and tight vetting processes, and those should be reviewed. But it's never the president's fault or his policies when it comes to his reaction, and it's pretty disgusting.
Want to really see something that said, take a look at what happened.
Hey.
Why this beat so cold?
We will make America proud again. When you try to we will make America wealthy again. And yes, together, we will make America great again.
Really disgusting. Everything is Trump's fault. I tell you, man. Democrats got blood on their hands. Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I think a Democrat out of Florida is just irrelevant. Sorry, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Democrat out of Florida, I think you're just irrelevant. But I hope everybody's had an awesome week. Awesome post Thanksgiving. Y'all celebrating throughout the weekend as well. Y'all got a lot of things going on. So hope everything's going well, man. Hope everybody that's tuned in is blessed, well, and healthy. And that you got to spend time with loved ones, family, friends, have good company. We put politics aside and our differences aside, and we just have a good time, man. Good energy, positivity, love. Hug it out, But we didn't like what happened this past week and what took place, Thanksgiving. In the life of a National Guardsman, Send our prayers, our love, our condolences. Rest in peace to Sarah Beckstrom. Democrats just can't wait to run on the CNN, the MS Nows, ABC News. We seen what just took place with those 6 Democrats, that told the military to disobey orders, to disobey the commander in chief. I mean, they got blood on their hands, man. People ought to be walked out with their hands behind their back. I'm dead serious, man. Until people are held accountable, man, it's just never gonna stop, man. And it's just always the big bad orange man's fault. Our democracy under attack. Dictator, Hitler. We're a bunch of Nazis. I'm sick of it, man. It's defamation every single day. Hate mongering, fear mongering, just gaslight draws in the middle of the street. I'm sick of it, man. These people are so full of it, though, man. Unbelievable.
The American public is still reeling after the brutal shooting of 2 National Guard members in Washington, D.C. And a former DNC chair has a familiar face to blame for this, and that is President Donald Trump. Now, this former DNC chair had some very despicable comments about this shooting, and once again, she is letting Democrats off the hook for the policies that have led to this shooting. But before we get into this story, please like.
Again, it's just always Trump's fault. You know, and then Trump comes out and responds and says he's doing this and this. You know, he calls out the previous administration and what led up to all this crap that is, you know, led to these results. You know, but we must just come with, you know, we must hate the president. It's his fault. You see, look how he responds. You know, in which I think he responded as we all think he should respond. You know, y'all seen Trump up there? He was hotter than fish grease. Y'all seen when they had that picture and he was walking? You know, because an American life is lost. Has an American life, man. People have had enough, man. And this is why a majority of Americans have flocked to President Trump. But I'm telling you, a Democrat out of Florida is just irrelevant. Sorry.
Share and comment at Explain America. A National Guard member has tragically died and another is clinging to life after an Afghan refugee who was given asylum in the United States and was actually admitted into a CIA program. Well, that has led to a lot of us reassessing our policies on allowing asylum into the United States and our vetting of those who work for the United States government. But Debbie Wasserman Schultz, a former DNC chair who was actually implicated in fixing an election on behalf of Hillary Clinton, well, she had someone to blame for this, and we should not be surprised that it was President Donald Trump. She took to the airwaves and laid into him, blaming him for deploying National Guard troops to the nation's capital as provoking this senseless act of violence. Let's watch.
Would an individual have flown across the country to target law enforcement officers in Washington, D.C.? And I mean, the answer is likely no. So why wasn't the president's first thought, wow, you know, maybe I should reconsider deploying military troops in the nation's capital or in any city, particularly not when they haven't coordinated.
Mind you, there's people still all around. Still, they are begging still for Trump to send National Guard to their city, to their state. Anyways.
Closely with the leadership of these cities. We need to make sure that we have tight and appropriate and proper vetting. If there were gaps that admitted...
But this is just no surprise, man. I know this doesn't surprise y'all. You know, same stuff on CNN. The same time, the same thing they bring a Democrat up on CNN. What else do you expect? You know, and it's not just this lady. It's a lot of other than Democrats we didn't cover blaming Trump for this and everything. Anytime something happens, it's always Trump's fault. You know. So this doesn't surprise anybody, man. Same talking point on CNN. Same stuff.
This person, they would have failed over multiple levels of gaps, and this individual was trusted enough to participate in assisting our military during the war in Afghanistan. So I just think, you know, the president looks everywhere except inward to blame his own policies. We need to make sure that we don't have our military deployed in our cities where handling law enforcement responsibilities, and we need to make sure that we address gun violence. We certainly need to make sure we always have the proper and appropriate and tight vetting processes, and those should be reviewed. But it's never the president's fault or his policies when it comes to his reaction, and it's pretty disgusting.
Well, it's very ironic that Debbie Wasserman Schultz blames Donald Trump also for failing to turn inward and to assess himself and his own policies, because it was actually the crime rates in these Democrat-run cities that prompted the President of the United States to deploy the National Guard troops in order to protect the local population. And as we've seen, a lot of local residents were grateful for President Trump sending those National Guard troops. But instead, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, she is letting the Democrats off the hook for failing the American people and for putting their lives at risk. And how is it the fault of National Guard troops for simply being there to protect and serve the public. If a refugee had come to them and shot.
We just seen a Democrat get up on ABC News right before this shooting took place and say that the National Guard is going to shoot American citizens. We just seen a clown get up on CNN and say National Guard is Nazis. Yeah. Clap it up for the Democrats. Clap it up. The same rhetoric every single day. Everybody's a Nazi, you know, and that the National Guard is going to shoot American citizens.
How is it their fault? How is it anyone's fault except the person that took their life and the reason that the National Guard troops were there to begin with? And that is the Democrats, who need to get more serious about their crime-fighting policies and to protect the American people so more people don't have to die, whether it be National Guard troops or the American people themselves. So if you have any thoughts about this...
Hey, well, what an absolute disgrace, man. You just can't make this